What up, folks? It's your pal, Coach Vino, and this is the Glass Half Full podcast where we turn setbacks into comebacks. Let's go.
Yo, everybody goes through setbacks, but don't let these setbacks make you take a step back. Setbacks from the situation, put your brush down, envision the picture you're faith in, because everybody goes through setbacks.
All right. Welcome back to the podcast. I am Coach Vino, the people's bartender, and your certified coach from the Boogie Down Bronx. So, today's quote is attributed to Henry Ford, and it goes, "Whether you believe you can do a thing or not, you are right." And I love this quote because it's actually really clever. And today's podcast, let me tell you something, it's going to be one that might sting a little bit. And that's because what I'm going to be talking about today is this idea that there's people that are less qualified than you, that are living the life that you want because they believed in themselves and decided that they were going to take action. That's all it is. That's what I'm saying. If you whether you believe you can do a thing or not, you are right. It's about what kind of action are you willing to take. And these people who are less qualified than you, that are living the life you want to live, it's not because they're smarter. It's not because they have, more credentials or every credential, whatever the case might be. It's not because they even had some master plan, They just moved. They just did what they had to do. And sometimes that's the difference. Now, listen, I'm not saying that skills don't matter, because they do. And I'm not saying that, preparation doesn't matter. Of course it does. Absolutely it does. You got to know what you're doing, right? You got to, you got to care about the work you're doing. You got to respect the process of it all. But there comes a point where preparation just turns into, avoidance, into hiding, into you not trying. You keep waiting to be more ready for that perfect moment, right? So you're more confident, you're more polished, you feel more official. Meanwhile, somebody else out there with half of your experience, but twice your nerve, is out there and they're trying and they're learning, adjusting, and they're getting better in the job, in the role, in public. And you're sitting there thinking, how the fuck did this guy get that opportunity? I'll tell you how. Because they raised their hand. They sent that email out, they posted that video on Instagram. They applied for the job. They started their business. They made a call. They took the first step while you were still trying to convince yourself that you needed maybe one more certification, one more qualification, one more course, one more piece of evidence that you're good enough or ready for it. You needed that perfect moment. And I say this with love, because Vino loves you. But sometimes the only thing holding you back is not that you're not qualified. Is that you're waiting for permission that nobody is going to give you but you. All right? And that's a tough pill to swallow, because it's so much easier to blame the world than to blame the other people. It's easier to say, oh, they got lucky. I wasn't ready. They got lucky. And yeah, sometimes people get lucky. Oh, I know they do. Trust me. Sometimes they know somebody. Sometimes the timing lines up for them in a way that it didn't line up for you. I get that. But even luck needs movement. Luck can't find you if you're hiding in the house, talking yourself out of everything. What do you say? The harder you work, the luckier you get. Opportunity usually shows up while you're in motion. And that's the part that people forget. You don't build belief by sitting around thinking about belief. You build belief by doing shit, by doing something, even something small. You take one step and your brain says, okay, we survived that, now what? You take another step and your brain tells you, oh, we survived it again. And then what? You take another step and now you've got evidence. And slowly the story changes from, I can never do that, to, you know what? Hey, I think I got this. That's how confidence is built. Not by waiting until fear disappears. Because fear may never disappear. Sometimes fear just gets tired of trying, so it stops, getting in the way. But it's still there. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. Hey, coach, what if I fail? What if I F up? And you might. Let's be honest. You might fail. You might look stupid. You might look awkward. You might stumble. Bing, bang, bing. You might realize you don't know as much as you thought. And you might get rejected. But you know what happens if you never try? It's the same result, except with more regret. Because at least failure gives you feedback. You could learn from failure. Regret just sits you on your ass. Years later, asking yourself, why did I take that shot? And that question is heavy, folks. Regret is a heavy burden to carry with you. I cannot tell you. That question gets heavier and heavier with time. And so does regret. So instead of being mad that somebody else is living the life you want, just study what they did. Study what they did right. Maybe they were more qualified. Maybe they were more willing. They were just more willing to be a beginner, to take a less salary, to be seen. They were willing to hear no's. They were willing to figure it out as they go. Fake it till you make it, right? They were willing to start before, everything was perfect. And that's not arrogance. That's confidence. That's action. And some of us refuse or confuse humility with playing small. We tell ourselves, I don't want to seem full of myself. But believing in yourself doesn't mean that you think you're better than anybody. It doesn't mean that. It means you finally stop acting like you don't belong in the room. There's a big difference. See, you can be humble and still go after it. You could be respectful and you can still promote your work and the stuff that you've put together. All right? And you could still be learning in the process of learning and begin. I've done that a million times. I actually love doing that. I love learning on the go. Because nobody starts as a finished version of themselves. Everybody you admire took a first attempt. They had their first awkward conversation, their first, bad draft or crappy video. Their first time putting a name on something and hoping that, that it went well, that people didn't think it was shitty. The difference is they didn't let that first version become the final excuse or the final version. So here's the question for you today. Where are you more qualified than you're acting? Okay, where can you be doing more? Where are you waiting for confidence when what you really need is movement? Where are you watching someone else live your dream while you're still negotiating with your fear and your lack of confidence? And don't answer that with any sense of shame or anything like that. It's not about shaming you. What you need to do is react. Answer with actions. Pick one thing. Just pick one thing. Whatever that thing is that's fucking with you. Take action. Send a message. Make an appointment. Write that first piece. Apply for the job. Build a sample. Whatever it is. Ask questions. Start messy. But just start. Because the people living the life you want are not always better than you. Sometimes they just believed in themselves sooner than you did. And they moved sooner than you did. Because they got tired of asking, what if I'm not ready? I started asking, what if I already figured this out? Or what if I figure it out as I go? And maybe that's the question you need to ask yourself too. What if you figure it out as you go? What if you're closer than you think? And what if the only thing missing is not another, qualification, but just a brave decision to go? Folks, you don't need to wait until you feel the most qualified and, be the most qualified person in the room. You just need to stop disqualifying yourself before anyone even gets to know what you're made of. You got this. But that's all I got for you folks. If you enjoyed today's podcast, I'd appreciate if you left a review so you can help Coach Vino feed the Hungry algorithm. If you or someone you know might want to work with Coach Vino, you can visit my website, coachvinollc.com. You can also follow the podcast on social media, where I share my thoughts in bite sizes, and it gives me an opportunity to directly interact with you guys. So I'm anywhere at Coach Vino Podcast. And remember, folks, if nobody else tells you, Coach Vino appreciates you. Cheers.
At times I find it hard to reveal these thoughts and express what I'm feeling in a hip-hop form. But I was born to succeed, so as long as I breathe, ain't nobody on this earth gonna crush my dreams. Yo, this might be the end of the verse, but this is just the start of a new beginning. Word.